Alright, here we have the main board for the game Olympus. You can see it's a big, nice, colorful board. I really like the artwork. You can't really see because these cards are, but there's a nice picture of Mount Olympus on the back there. And it works perfectly for what the game needs to be done. I mean, I've always said I can play any game regardless of the artwork, but of course if they take time to make it look nice, the pleasure you derive from the game can only be increased by that. It has the standard scoring track that goes around the board. My buddy Jason absolutely hates that. I have no idea why. He just has this opinion that we should have moved on from this particular method of scoring. I just think he's trying to be a misanthrope of some sort, so I won't belabor that too much, but obviously it works just fine like it does for pretty much any other game that has that scoring track. Over here you can see these are the different gods you're going to worship. This is a worker placement game, but you're not sending workers to work mines or farms or anything like that. You're sending priests to worship certain gods. And there's two locations for worshiping the gods. There's the alpha and the beta, and I'll explain that in just a few moments. I did mention these cards over here. These cards are the different temples that you can build as a player, and they give you powers and abilities that some of them kind of break the rules in certain ways, some of them just give you more points. But the interesting thing with these is they are singular. There's no multiple of each one of those. So the first person to, say, build the Temple of Hera gets to take this and put it in front of them, and nobody else gets to build that Temple of Hera. Like I said, these cards and all the buildings that you can make, actually everybody has the exact same deck. So these are unique. So if you get to build that, you're the only one that gets to build that. So I'm going to show you how you play the game. It's pretty simple, actually. You determine randomly a first player, by whatever means you wish. Rock, paper, scissors, you spin it, or just drawing a color out of a hat. And the first player decides which god they're going to send their priest to worship. If you're the first player for this worship phase, you have to do this. You can't pass. So in this case, Black will send somebody up there to lead the worship of Zeus. Now, Zeus is the king of gods, and I'll explain what each of these gods do when you worship them. But Zeus is the king of gods, and he's pretty powerful, so blue decides they're going to follow along, and green decides they follow along, and yellow decides they follow along. When you follow, you still get a boon from worshiping, but you don't get as great of a boon as the person who led the worship. Now, unlike a lot of worker placement games where you place all of your workers and then you determine what you get, in Olympus, after everybody has either played a priest or have passed, you get the boon that you would collect. And once everybody collects, then the next player to the left of the person who played first now has to make a worship. And so now blue will look, and let's say they want to go to Athena because Athena gives culture, and so then green says, I'd like that too, and then yellow says, I'd like that as well, and black says, I'm going to pass. I don't need that right now. And so then we go to green. And green says, I'm going to go here, Aphrodite, because Aphrodite gives population. And yellow says, I'm going to follow. And then black says, sure, that sounds like a good idea. And blue says, no, I'll pass. I don't want to do that. Now, yellow normally would be their turn, but they only got the 3 priests. This is the beginning of the game. And they've used them all to follow. So they can't place when you worship, so they're going to pass. So it goes back up to black. And black says, I'm going to go over here and go to Hera, and I'm going to use her to increase some of my resources. And blue says I pass, blue's the only one that has a priest left, so blue then says I'm going to go to Hephaestus down here because I want to build some buildings. Now, as I said, after each one of those things are done, you actually do process the boon. So at this point, the worship phase is done. Everybody's got everything they were planning on doing, and it's over. And so you go through the upkeep phase. And during the upkeep phase, you go through those things that I mentioned before when I was looking at the player board. You look at people's warehouses to make sure that they don't have too many resources. If they have anything in their tributary, they move that up. you go ahead and you check and make sure that nobody has increased any of their tracks higher than their population. And there's other, and once you get done with the upkeep phase, everybody just collects their priests off this, and now you move the first player marker one person to the left, so then blue would be first, and blue leads, and like blue goes to Zeus, and you do the same thing over and over again. Until 4 of those glory cards are claimed by the players that are playing the game, and then that's the end of the game. You total up the points, and whoever has the most obviously wins. Now, I'm just going to quickly go over each one of the gods and what they do, just so you have an idea. Zeus is easy. Zeus basically gives you the power to do anything that the other gods do. And if you're the first person to go on there, you get to do it twice. If you follow, you get to do it once. Zeus is nice because he's nice and flexible, and he gives you a lot of different options and a lot of different abilities. Hera is still powerful, but not as powerful as Zeus. You'll notice that there's a little slash mark here. When you lead with Hera, you get to choose. And you'll notice that there's these squares on some of these locations, and then there's these circles. And these have, the circles only deal with resources. When it's a circle, that means that you get to collect that resource, depending on how far up the track you are for that particular resource. And you notice that here in Hera, you can either choose these 2 squares, which have all 3 colors on them, meaning that you are allowed to increase the tracks of 2 of the resources. You can't increase the same one twice, but you can increase 2 separate ones by 1. Or you can collect 2 separate resources. Not the same one twice, but 2 separate resources. So you just pick which side. If you follow, you basically get to do, instead of twice, you get to do it once, and you choose as well. Here on Demeter, Artemis, and Poseidon, wheat, venison, and fish, same deal. If you lead, you not only get to increase the track by 1, but you also collect the resources. If you follow, you get to choose. Are you going to increase the track by 1, or are you going to collect the resources? On Athena, this is how you get your culture raised. If you are the first person, you get 2 points of culture on your track. If you're the second or you're following, you only get 1. Aphrodite increases your population. This is 2, and this is 1. And now you get to Ares. Ares is neat. Ares is the god of war. This is the way you are able to directly affect the other people that are playing. If you lead with Ares, you see there's 3 different options. You can either increase your military by 2 on the track, you can increase your military by 1 and wage 1 war, or you can wage 2 wars. If you follow, you can either just increase your military by 1 or wage a war. Now, when you wage a war, you compare the military strength of yourself, as per your track on your board, as compared to the other person that you're attacking. If you have more than them, you get 1 resource of your choice by however many points that you have above them on your military. So if you have a military of 5 and you attack someone with a military of 3, you can take 2 of their resources and you place them in your tribute location. It's important to note that if you are the person who leads the worship of Ares and you go to war, and you go to war against somebody you are tied with, because you led an Ares, you are considered to break that tie by 1, so you still get a resource from them. Now, Hephaestus, it's pretty simple. You get to build. If you're the first person, you get to build 2 buildings. If you are follow, you only get to build 1. Very important, because these buildings that are in your deck allow you to better your civilization. I mean, there could be something simple, like this is a gymnasium. And you'll notice that it's got this 1 here, and this 1 up here in this corner, and you notice it's kind of green. That's the culture you need, the minimum culture you need to be able to build this building. So this gymnasium, you'll notice that there's a wheat and a venison. So those are the resources. It's going to take you 1 yellow cube and 1 red cube to build. And also you can see there's a victory point. You get 1 victory point for building this building. And it says here, your buildings require 1 less point of culture to build. So it's things like that. So like if you then wanted, to build this philosophy, and you'll notice that it says that it needs 5. If you had the gymnasium, it would need only 4 culture to build. And so then you would slowly but surely you would build these particular buildings, and increase them. And then you notice that they go all the way up, to having needing 8 to be able to build a particular building. Now, if you don't want to build a building that's in your deck of cards, you can also build one of these temples that are over here, these unique temples. And these are really cool because they allow you to like break the rules, like I said, in a certain way. Like, for example, if you have the Temple of Athena, when you worship Athena, you get to increase one of your tracks by one. It doesn't, you can just choose one. And if you have a culture of 6 or higher, each other opponent that you're playing has to decrease one of their tracks by one. So you can see how, the Temple of Athena can be kind of a jerk move, if you will, if you have that. And of course, the Temple of Zeus is very awesome if you're able to build this for anybody else. It does take one of each resource, and it's worth a victory point, but if you earn Zeus's beta favor, so in other words, if somebody leads and you do the beta, you are considered to get the 2 alpha favor instead of just the 1. So this is a really cool one to have as well. And all of these are cool in their own right, and they each kind of give you a different strategy and different abilities, and they're really, really cool. And you kind of want to get as many of these as you can, because they'll really help you win the game. Now the final location, and probably the most interesting and probably one of the most crucial spots, is worshiping Apollo. Now if you lead on Apollo, you have to choose one of these locations. You can either take 2 victory points, or you can take 1 victory point and you can bring the plague. If you bring the plague, everybody either has to follow and protect themselves against the plague by placing a priest there, or they're going to lose 1/3 of their population. A lot of people are up in air about Apollo, because it seems like Zeus gets picked and then Apollo gets picked almost immediately, because nobody wants to be the guy who doesn't take Apollo and not get that victory point, because somebody's almost always going to take Apollo as a god, and they're going to bring the plague, just because I think everybody likes to try to starve out or kill off their opponents. And that's fine, but I do think it does limit the game a little bit, because of the fact that, like I said, Zeus is super powerful, and people will take him immediately, unless they, say, have the Temple of Zeus and need to, and can just follow and get the big boon anyway. And then people go ahead and take Apollo, because basically they know somebody else is going to take this, because they want to be able to hammer on the other people and get that victory point. I mean, I don't mind it, but I can see why people have a problem where these 2 locations, kind of seem like they're a little off kilter and out of whack as far as their power is compared to every other spot on the board. Like I said, we still play this game a lot, so I mean, obviously our group has gotten past it and just settled on and enjoyed it, but I can understand why people have an issue with those 2 locations. But that's how you play Olympus. And like you said, you just keep going until you get those 4 glory cards in the hands of everybody else that's on the board, and once that, you just total up the points and you decide who wins. The game plays relatively quick for a worker placement game. You can, after everybody knows how to play, depending on the number of players, you can bust this out in just about an hour. And for the number of strategic choices and the clanking of the gears in your brain that this game causes you to have, I really think it's an awesome game. And obviously, you know that. But let me go ahead and conclude this review, and I'll tell you exactly what I think. All right, let's do that.